This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
All right, everybody, welcome to the next episode here of Current State of WWE. Anthony DeMarco back with me as we have happen every single Monday. And following Extreme Rules, man, we've got so much to talk about. We'll try to cram it in 30 minutes. And we've got a few topics that we're going to hone in on. But before we do that, Anthony, how are you doing? And how did you enjoy the pay-per-view?
Doing well, man. And overall, I enjoyed the pay-per-view. I gave it the actual card, I would say about 7.5 out of 10. But I think obviously with the return of Bray Wyatt, it catapulted to like an 8.5, 9. And, you know, for a B pay-per-view with no world championship on the pay-per-view on the men's side, obviously you had the two women's, but with no championship at all defended on the men's side of things, I thought it kind of over-delivered. There were some duds. I think there were some disappointments with the SmackDown Women's Championship match, the main event, and the strap match. I think they were all kind of underwhelming. But all in all, I think it was a solid pay-per-view. And again, for a B-level pay-per-view with no men's championships being defended, I thought it was overall a pretty good pay-per-view and something that I think should give us some encouragement moving forward with these types of B-level pay-per-views.
Definitely. And it feels like the talent have room to breathe. It feels like matches are able to they're given enough time to tell a true story, even if the storyline totally sucks or is really non-existent or great promos aren't part of the program, like Imperium versus Brawling Brutes. They can still turn out to be matches of the night, and so that is true. So let's start with the good, and then we'll get to the bad. And people have already heard my thoughts, so I don't want to go into too much detail about my own because I've already fleshed it out. But what are your thoughts on the Bray Wyatt return? It seemed like the worst-kept secret in WWE, but the White Rabbit did turn out to be Bray Wyatt. It couldn't have been anybody else. It shouldn't have been, and he, I think, kind of overshadowed the main event of the Fight Pit where people were chanting for Bray Wyatt at the end of the night, just getting impatient. But how do you feel about the execution and the ultimate just kind of 10-second appearance by Bray, only to just blow out the lantern and then they end the show? But how did you like it?
Well, the build-up, I think, was one of the best things they've done in a while, like the White Rabbit, the QR codes. I think that on SmackDown, the QR code on Triple H's microphone kind of gave it away with the let me in thing, and then if you froze it at like 13 seconds, there was actually Huskus the Pig there. So I think by the time SmackDown came and went, we all knew that it was Bray Wyatt as a slam dunk. I found the way that they did it in terms of like the live kind of action version of all of the Firefly Funhouse characters and someone wearing the Fiend mask, I found that was a little kind of out there. I mean, I'm not against it. I just kind of wasn't expecting that. And a lot of people are kind of talking about the Wyatt Six. Like, is he going to start a faction? So that leaves the door open. And obviously there's the rumors flying around that Bo Dallas is coming back, that Eric Rowan is coming back. So maybe those two are going to join Bray Wyatt as well. But I think that the lantern being blown out was, you know, simple but effective because it kind of leaves the door open for what's going to happen on Monday Night Raw, what's going to happen on SmackDown, and doesn't give you a clear-cut direction as where he's going right away. And that's okay because you want to leave something to be desired. You want to keep the fans wondering. So you get the payoff. You know it's Bray Wyatt. You know Bray Wyatt's back, but you still have to tune in and figure out what's next. And I think that's one thing Triple H has done well, is not going for the instant payoff, like him coming out and like attacking like Matt Riddle or something, or coming out and attacking this wrestler or that wrestler. Like he comes out, he lets everyone know, like, I'm back, I'm here, kind of gives you a hint that maybe a faction is coming with him. But beyond that, you have to keep watching. I did think that the fact that they waited till the end of the show hurt the main event. Like we were discussing a bit off here, that we found the main event underwhelming. Not even necessarily because of the actual in-ring performance, but because, as you alluded to, everyone in the crowd and guilty as charged, myself included, was just frantically anticipating Bray Wyatt to come out. So, I mean, I think that was maybe the only negative, but that isn't really even something against Bray Wyatt. It was more just the timing and the placement of it on the card.
Yeah, I think the main event suffered from the Bray Wyatt overshadow on top of the fact that it just wasn't a great match, and we can talk about that in a little bit. But I thought, in general, in a nutshell, I think they did an excellent job with the Bray Wyatt return. The build was something that we haven't seen before. The clues, while they you didn't need a degree in criminology to figure out who it was. It's still fun that they did this kind of play along thing at home. Like, they got fans digging on their phones and doing QR codes and trying to dissect every little frame of the White Rabbit, and could it really be Bray? Maybe it's not. Like, I like that stuff. That's something totally, it's a different level of interactivity with the fans that I hope they do at some point again in the future. And again, it wasn't super hard to solve, but it's still fun. And the way that they executed it, going through the Firefly Funhouse with all of the old characters, and everybody kind of just, it looked dusty. Everyone was kind of just, everything looked dead and void. That was symbolic of him transforming and evolving into something new. And that what we saw was really just a new mask, which I really like. I like the new mask. But, he still looked like kind of the older swamp cult leader, which is, I'm not complaining, because we know nothing about what he is right now, or who he is, or what he's evolved into, or what he's eventually going to look like, or how he's going to speak. We don't know anything yet. But we do know 1,000,000% it's Bray. We don't know who he's going to go after, which I actually don't hate. Like you said, I think it's something different that you have somebody return and they don't just immediately attack someone or even hint at who they're going to target. I think he'll probably show up on Raw. He'll probably show up on SmackDown and then eventually settle into a home of wherever he may be. Or maybe he'll just float between brands because there isn't a brand split, as we've talked about 4 million times. So he could really do whatever he wants. But I don't know who his first opponent could be. I don't know if you have any ideas. I mean, obviously, Roman Reigns has got to be in the sights of Bray, but I don't know when that happens. If they go right to that, or if they go to, that at WrestleMania if The Rock's not available or whatever. But honestly, what are your thoughts on that? Do you have any clue as to who he could work with off the bat, or do you think that right now he's just kind of bring people in as bringing into his new faction, or just I don't know. What do you think?
I was thinking throughout the pay-per-view, like, who they could, bring him out against, because I thought he was going to debut in a match or something, but obviously they went the solo route, which is okay, like we mentioned. But I was thinking, and, especially after we saw the reaction, like, people were stoked to see him. Like, do you think that was arguably a bigger reaction than CM Punk got?
I thought about that. That's tough. Because Philadelphia is a notoriously tough crowd to satisfy, just as any of the big markets, New York, Chicago, LA, Dallas. They're very difficult to satisfy at a level that you expect them to react to. So I think that I'd have to have them side by side. The Holy S chants were fun. It was warranted. Not that it was surprising to anyone who it was, because everyone knew who it was, but it was just like taking the moment in and realizing, oh my God, this is Bray Wyatt. He hasn't been here since July 31st of 2021. That's 19 months ago that he left, which is really just crazy. It's been that long, but he's back, and the pop was. I'd have to give CM Punk the slight edge, slightest of edges. And I know that some people may say, well, I think that it's freshest in our mind because it's just happened a couple of days ago, so we think maybe that one's bigger. But if you compare them side by side, man, CM Punk reaction in AEW was just, it was Stone Cold-esque return type of pop. But I'd give it the slightest of edge, but this was no slouch. I mean, this is up there in the top 10 reactions of the year, no question, if not top 5.
But either way, we could admit that was a very babyface-esque reaction, right?
Oh, if they ever try to turn, there's zero chance of them turning Bray Wyatt heel, even if they try. It seems like they tried with The Fiend, and it never worked. He's too cool. He's too interesting. He's too dynamic. People are not going to boo Bray Wyatt. Sorry.
And that's my first kind of indication that, I don't think Triple H will try to force him as a heel. And in my mind, I'm saying, maybe the best first foe for him would be the Judgment Day. I think it would be something that would fit like a glove right off the bat for the nature of what the Judgment Day is. And I do think that the Judgment Day has gained some traction here, which is good, because if you asked me that 2-3 months ago, I would have said I have no interest in them because of what they did with the premature ousting of Edge. And look, I thought what they did with Edge and the I Quit match was very well thought out, but it's starting to get a bit redundant now that it's always Edge and Rey Mysterio with AJ Styles mixed in every now and again. So I would think that maybe Bray Wyatt against the Judgment Day would be a pretty cool kind of like first feud for him. The only thing that would make me hesitant about that is that you would probably effectively be burying the Judgment Day, because there's no way that they would go over on Bray Wyatt. But that's the first kind of thought that jumped into my head, because as far as the Judgment Day goes, I think they are finally starting to gain some traction here. And I feel terrible saying this, but like, I've just kind of had enough of Edge for a bit. I don't know about you, but are you kind of like annoyed with Edge right now?
I'm just, well, so honestly, I was so overwhelmed with Bray and really the Rhea Ripley spot in that I didn't really give it too much thought. But now that you bring it up, and it's not just to agree with you, he is kind of, yeah, like I was annoyed that they cut his heel run short. I'm sure he was too. And I think that there was way more juice to squeeze out of that one, and it just made no sense of what they did. And I still, to some degree, don't agree with what they did. So for him to just do a 180 and say, "Oh, I've been an a-hole, huh? Oh, sorry, I'm back to being just Adam Copeland." It's like, no, dude, you're not. And then him coming out to face who was it? It was SummerSlam. I forget who his opponent was.
No, when he returned to make the save.
Yeah, he made the save, but he came out like kind of as a brood, like quasi Edge it was just like, who are you? It's now, again, I still like Edge. He's one of the greatest of all time. It is a bit redundant. But man, to me, the one moment that made me feel the most that I've not felt in a long time, and I'm still angry about it in the most positive way, is the Rhea Ripley spot. Yeah. That to me was just, it was so, that single moment leaped forward Judgment Day more than they have up to this point at any moment in their existence, because that showed you what kind of people they are, especially Rhea Ripley, who's doing just an amazing job in that role. And having Beth come in, Edge says I quit, but yet they still give her the concerto anyway. It's just so vile. And I loved it. And it makes me want to see somebody beat the holy out of him. And I don't know. To me, that was just such an impactful spot that I haven't felt that kind of anger in quite a while for a group. And that's a great thing.
Yeah, I mean, but that's just a testament to the good creative they've done with Judgment Day, right? Because, like I said, under Vince, when they broke Edge away from them, like, I just had zero time for them. But Triple H has done an awesome job getting good heel heat on them. And look, again, I think that the Edge kind of, I don't know, like, not the gimmick, but just Edge as a whole constantly going after them is starting to get a bit old. Like, they take him out, he goes away, and then he comes back. They take him out, he goes away, and then he comes back. Like, it's just like, okay, so, like, where's this going to go? And you know that now this is going to happen again. Like, there's no way that he's not going to come back to avenge his wife. And while it was a good spot, it was an amazing spot. I love what they're doing with Judgment Day. I just wish it would have been a way that we could have put a bow on the Edge feud, and he could have moved on, and they could have moved on, and then we could just, said our goodbyes between the two. But that this is linked to something else. And I would, if I'm a betting man, we just saw the report today that Gallows and Anderson are coming back. I would assume they're going to join AJ Styles. They're going to go up against the Judgment Day, and that's going to lead in all the way to some Survivor Series. But I just think from a long-term perspective, they would be like the perfect kind of opponent for Bray Wyatt right off the bat. Because I just don't think Bray Wyatt can go up against a babyface right now. You put him up against any babyface, and that babyface is going to get buried. I don't even care if it's, John Cena back in 2005 when he was red hot as a babyface. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not going to work because Bray Wyatt is the most, as much as Roman Reigns is over right now, Sami Zayn, Seth Rollins, I don't know if once they really start getting going here with integrating Bray Wyatt into the creative, if there is going to be then Bray Wyatt, because most people would agree that he was the biggest missed opportunity of the mid to late 2010s. everyone was in unison that he was a guy that should have been pushed more as a legit main eventer. And you look at some of the WrestleManias that he just flat out was not a part of, like WrestleMania 32, where he wasn't in a match. He just jobbed to The Rock and John Cena in like just a throwaway segment. He wasn't a part of the card at WrestleMania 34. He wasn't a part of the card at WrestleMania 35. Like, there's just been so many missed opportunities for Bray Wyatt that I think at this point it's about not necessarily making up lost time, but just taking advantage of the fact that and I hate to say this, but that Vince McMahon isn't there anymore to kind of impede progress with the character, and B, finally give the fans what they want. And I think most people would agree that Bray Wyatt is a guy that they want to see in the main event as one of the most featured stars in the company.
There's no doubt about it that no matter who you put up against Bray, they're going to get booed. I don't care if it's Drew McIntyre. I don't care who it is. I don't care Matt Riddle, Randy Orton returning. Nobody. There's nobody that they could put up against Bray that's going to get cheered over Bray. It's not going to happen. So they have to understand that. Triple H has to understand that at this point. I'm sure he does. And it is much more encouraging with Triple H in charge instead of Vince, which again, Vince created some of the best moments we ever had as wrestling fans. He is the reason that we are wrestling fans. So I'm not crapping on Vince, but the fact is you have the same mind over 40 years doing the creative. You're going to have repetitive storylines. You're going to have those consistent creative bottlenecks where he doesn't like this or he doesn't like that, so you're not going to get anything different here or there. That's just the nature of one person being the end-all be-all, so that's why it feels so fresh. It's a different mind, different person. But anyway, back to Bray, and then we'll move on here. I think that Bray Wyatt right now, you have to put him at the top of the list of people. If they were going to end Roman Reigns' streak, he has to be number one. Now, again, I'm not saying it's going to happen immediately, but out of everyone currently active on the roster, outside of Cody Rhodes, which we've talked about, do you think that he is the number one guy right now that is believable? Fans would be 1,000,000% okay with it, and that it would actually make sense for Bray Wyatt, given how everything happened in 2020 with the triple threat at SummerSlam, how it all went down. How does this not make the most sense? Do you have somebody else, or do you think this is probably likely?
It's yes across the board, right? Because let's go through process of elimination. Even if The Rock comes back, he's not going to dethrone Roman Reigns for the championship. He's gone through Brock Lesnar. He's gone through John Cena. He's gone through Edge. He's gone through Seth Rollins, even though that there is, I guess, unfinished business there, but I think that ship has kind of sailed. Mm-hmm. He went through Drew McIntyre. I think that ship has sailed. I don't think Kevin Owens is that guy, and Roman Reigns has beat him. And Cody Rhodes, I guess so, maybe, but I mean, I don't think that he has nearly the cachet as a guy like Bray Wyatt does. I think Bray Wyatt is someone who's inherently likable because he isn't like a prototypical wrestler and like the typical like muscled up guy that you would see leading WWE. I think he's someone that the fans have wanted to see in the past be the main guy. He's a guy who is he's a 3-time world champion, twice with the Universal, once with the WWE Championship, both relatively underwhelming runs. But I think he's someone that we never saw have his full potential unlocked, which is saying something because even under Vince McMahon's regime and under Vince McMahon's thumb, he was able to pump out really good content. Like the Firefly Funhouse in the summer of 2019 and subsequently The Fiend, I thought was amazing storytelling. I think it blew up in their face because of how badly the Hell in a Cell match was booked with Seth Rollins, but it still goes to show how good of a character that was for the first year of its existence. I think even the cult leader version of Bray Wyatt had a lot more juice left to be squeezed had you actually let it run its course and not cut the legs out from under it, losing the championship to Randy Orton after only holding the belt for a month and a half. There is a lot of avenues you could go down with Bray Wyatt as the champion, and this time you have to make him a babyface. He's never been a babyface before. And I will give Triple H credit is that he's made me care more about the bloodline because he's added dimensions to it. The Solo Sikoa thing, the Sami Zayn factor is huge. Sami Zayn is so over with the crowd right now. The wrinkle with Jey Uso as Roman Reigns seems increasingly discontent with Jey Uso. So that part of the story is starting to make me more intrigued with the bloodline. Good on creative for that. But in terms of an end game for the Roman Reigns run, I think now, and like you said, it doesn't have to be imminent. It doesn't have to be right away. But you have a guy who the crowd is inherently behind, and not only inherently behind, but even for as much as Sami Zayn is over, Roman's over, like everything I said before, I don't know if there's anyone in pro wrestling right now that the fans want to see pushed more than Bray Wyatt.
Yeah, there's nobody. Number one, it is fresh, it's new. And eventually, just like any massive return, we will get not stale of it or sick of it, but it just starts to become the norm where it's not so special anymore. You just adapt to that person being back. And it happened with CM Punk. It doesn't take long for it to happen. As human beings, I mean, we see it and we're like, oh, okay, it's now become normal. After we see it a few times, it's not super special. With that said, I don't actually need Bray Wyatt on my TV screen every week. I don't want him on a Roman Reigns schedule, but I also don't need him on my TV every week. I think that was one of the best things they did with The Fiend at the beginning anyway, was make sure he's not overexposed. Make sure that he's, just kind of sparingly here, not on every show. Towards the end, I think they started to overexpose him, and obviously some of the matches that were iconically bad, Hell in a Cell and so forth. But certainly, I think that could help him, maybe not being on every show. But the problem is, I think the fans are demanding it so much that, at least maybe probably for the time being, he will appear on every show, Raw and SmackDown, until we figure out who and what he's targeting. But all right, let's get to the best. We talked about the best. Now let's talk about the worst of times. Liv Morgan and Ronda Rousey. Rousey becomes champion here in a awkward kind of calf chokeout that Liv was smiling through, that we don't know what the hell that's supposed to mean. And just botched spots. This was just kind of a sloppy match. The effort was there for both women. No, nothing taken away there, but they just didn't gel. The storyline wasn't great. I don't know what good to say about this. What was your take?
Look, the story has been kind of rocky in this one. We were kind of talking about this before we started recording, about how you don't really know where they're going with it, who you're supposed to cheer, who you're supposed to boo. Is Ronda heel? Did she turn heel? No, she didn't. Okay, now is Liv a heel? Is she not? Are we supposed to cheer Liv, or is she supposed to be a slimy heel? Like, I think the storytelling was kind of confusing going in, and in the match, I just find the two women don't have great in-ring chemistry. I do think Ronda winning is the right call, just because she has more cachet, she brings more legitimacy there, and unfortunately, I think the entire Liv run kind of fell flat. I am interested to see a bit with the whole smiling thing with Liv. Like, I'm curious about that. I think now we could officially say that Ronda's a heel with the way that she reacted after winning the championship. So maybe that's grooming her to be the heel for returning Becky Lynch in time for WrestleMania. That would be my best guess. And maybe she could have a stopgap with like a Shayna Baszler along the way. But I mean, all in all, it was a confusing angle. I'm fearful that it hurt Liv almost on a permanent basis, which is unfortunate because I do like Liv. But I think this was just something that unfortunately they kind of Did they start this angle before Triple H took over? I'm trying to think back when.
It's right around that time. It's close.
Yeah, like Money in the Bank was, I think it was still under Vince's watch, Money in the Bank.
I think he was under investigation at the time.
Yeah, so I think for a lot of these angles, and look, I'm not saying that everything Vince did is bad and everything Triple H is doing is great. I'm not trying to, push that narrative. But I think this was maybe just something that Triple H didn't see eye to eye on it, and that's why it kind of seems so confusing in the conclusion. I'm hoping this is the conclusion of it. But all in all, it's like you said, it wasn't like the worst thing I've ever seen, but it was just, it kind of fell flat. And, I think maybe it's because, I'm guilty of this. Maybe I went in with the predetermined narrative that I didn't care about this match. Like, I was just like, oh, okay, like the build wasn't great. So maybe I didn't really give it a chance to really grow on me. But all in all, it kind of fell flat for me. I kind of felt confused, but I do think at the very least they got the result right.
Agreed. Yeah, they did. And if Ronda is now a heel, which, I thought that was for sure last time, but I'll wait and see so I don't sound stupid, that we'll wait and see on SmackDown of the follow-up, how she talks to the audience. All that, and how she's honestly just been a babyface or booked as a babyface for the 4 years off and on that she's been here is really amazing, given how natural of a heel she is. She's like a Roman Reigns, but yet they've gotten away with it because she has a badass attitude about her. She's got this just different feel to her, and I'm no Ronda Rousey fan on a personal level or anything, but anyway. So Liv Morgan, though, the character change, something's going on though, because I watched WWE. It might have been an exclusive or on their Twitter or whatever, that I think it was Megan Morant or one of the interviewers was going up to Liv, and she was sitting in a dark corner. And the narrative on the actual video said that Liv Morgan was found in a dark place, or she's in a dark place. She was just sitting in a corner, slouched in a dark corner, just kind of slouched, looking up at Megan, and didn't respond to her after she asked, like, "How are you? Are you okay?" And so there's clearly something going on with Liv. Probably to the dark side, so to speak, or symbolically going to the dark side, so she's going to officially be a heel. I don't know exactly how or what she's going to do, but I would think absolutely that's probably going to take place with Liv Morgan turning into a heel. And definitely Ronda and Becky are going to cross paths. It has to happen. It's criminal. It's really impossible to believe that one-on-one match hasn't happened yet. And so hopefully nobody gets a broken nose. Nia Jax isn't there to break the other side of her face. So this match should actually happen at WrestleMania, and eventually you got to turn Ronda into a heel too. But I mean, who knows? Are both women coming out of this as a heel? I don't know.
Well, for you, do you think it was? Forget Ronda for a second. Do you think the Liv Morgan character can be saved, and do you think it's imperative that she goes through a mega, character overhaul in order to do so?
I think as it's presently constitute, like how it is right now. If the Liv Morgan character that it is right now, I think we've seen more than we need to see of it. Just because it's very just kind of bland. I think she's got a great promo delivery. I really like the way that she speaks. The way, like, her cadence in promos are great. I think she's a decent to good promo. So she has that going for her. She's obviously nice to look at. But I think her character is it's like two-dimensional. I need more dimensions. I need something deeper, more rounded, more polished. She's just kind of, there's not much there. Like, there's nothing unpredictable with Liv. When she was trying to quote unquote go extreme last week, it was almost laughable. I'm like, yeah, that's not your character. Like, it was almost like she was playing pretend. I didn't believe her character that she could really go extreme. I'm like, we're supposed to believe you can go extreme because you could put Lacey Evans through a table. That's your proof. But I think that she does need to evolve into not a Alexa Bliss Fiend spinoff. I don't want her going that route with superpowers and things, but I think that there needs to be a much more just rough edge to her where she can snap and she does things that actually she tries to hurt people. She doesn't try to win. She tries to actually hurt them, injure them. Maybe she can do that, but there's clearly something going on. I don't need a total 180, but there needs to be something beyond her kind of happy-go-lucky, I can get extreme, guys, believe me, kind of deal. So yeah, there's something, and I'm here for it.
And I think that's the Triple H thing, and maybe that's why they pulled the plug on her initial run with the championship, is because he sensed that it was kind of bland. And I do think a part of what hurt this is because I really did enjoy the Raw Women's Championship, and I gotta tell you, like, I was sure Bayley was gonna win, and I was a little over Bianca Belair going into this, but I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just like too, I guess, like generic of a fan, or I don't know if that's the right terminology, or easy to manipulate, if you will. But whatever they did in the booking of that match really got me back behind Bianca. There's something about her that she walks this fine line of like being so confident, but not going over into like a pretentious heelish type of way. And the fact, like, her raw athleticism, the fact that she was able to overcome like the 3-on-1 kind of like numbers game. I don't know about you, but I'm back behind Bianca Belair in a way that I think a month ago I would have not thought I would be.
Yeah, she has this thing where, I mean, I was down on her for a while because she was, remember those like 5 weeks she was sitting at ringside for the same main event for Raw? It felt like of Becky Lynch versus Asuka. Becky Lynch versus Asuka. That was like the main event of Raw for like over a month. And she would just sit there ringside, not say anything. And I'm like, well, so what are you doing here? And there was just some downtime after her victory after WrestleMania 2. But she has this thing about her where even if creatively from a promo perspective or anything, she's not exactly hitting all cylinders. I think that in ring, she's so good. She's so athletic. And she's got this natural just ability to connect with you that it can't be taught. It's just that it thing that everyone talks about. She's got that. And there's just something that even if she is terrible going in creatively, the story sucks. She pulls you back in with her work in the ring. I think that is what's doing it. Is she's just so smooth, so good, so strong. She's just probably the best women's athlete that WWE has right now. And I think that is really what is connecting her back to fans, and is her in-ring.
Yeah, I would agree. I think she's just so inherently likable because of how good of an athlete she is. And it's just like it's never a bad match with her. And, I think Bayley's done terrific work too. And I do think that she deserves another women's championship sooner rather than later. But what we've seen with Bianca Belair in over the last pretty much year and a half here, and the fact that she's been able to, stay. And look, I know that there probably are some people that are over her. Like even me at times, I'm just like, oh, she's kind of getting boring now. Should they turn her heel? But for the most part, she's been able to stay relevant with more or less the same character. And I think that's a testament to how good she's been in the ring, which, I can't say for a lot of people. And for, a lot of women that have come and gone over the last, year and a half, over the pandemic, last 2 years, whatever it is, like Sasha, Becky, Charlotte, so inconsistent, Ronda too, like Bayley to an extent. It's a testament to her how consistent she's been through it all.
It is. There's no doubt about it. She is one of the pillars of the women's division. And I don't mean that just because she's champion. Even if she wasn't champion, I would still say that she is one of the pillars of the women's division. She's that constant, great match that you have in your back pocket. She can cut good promos. She has sometimes an annoying flair about her, but that's quickly washed away with how good anything she does in ring. And she does carry a confidence about her. She does have a genuine confidence, not this kind of made up, this is what my wrestling character would be. It feels like really her. I think the authenticity piece of her as well really helps, even beyond in ring, is I feel like that's who she really is, just turned up a little bit. And I know that everyone says that, but it's true. Just because everyone says it doesn't mean that it makes it less true. It is, and I feel like she's not trying to BS me with who she is in the ring. Like I feel like when she's on the mic, it feels like whenever she talks about herself, her history, what her struggles were, her accomplishments in track and field or whatever she was doing, that all is real. And I think the authenticity is another big piece of why fans continue to cheer for her, despite the fact, as I've said and you said, she's got a heel gimmick, saying she's the best at everything. Somehow we all cheer.
Yeah, and that it's kind of crazy. And I think because the SmackDown scene has been lacking for quite some time, and that's not fair to say. Like, I don't want to put a slight against Ronda or Liv, but it's just like when you compare it, like show versus show and title versus title and program versus program, it really is like a non-factor. It's a non-comparison right now. And I think all in all, just to say is that we had a good show here. I like the fact that there was long-term storytelling. I think we're going to get another match of Bayley versus Bianca. And I just think that if you want to put a bow on Extreme Rules, it's just that there's long-term storytelling with Triple H at the helm. There's no longer like these 1 week long playoffs type of thing. It's that every match kind of means something. And even if matches do fall flat, like I think the strap match fell flat, as we alluded to, the main event fell flat, they still do mean something. So even if there are duds along the way, it's nice to see that everything has a meaningful kind of purpose behind it.
That's just it. That's what Triple H feels like. It feels he has brought back that feeling that anything could happen. That whole narrative that they try to tell us all the time, oh, anything could happen, and you're like, yeah, you roll your eyes like, yeah, sure. You know what's going to happen almost match to match. Triple H has brought that back because he's shown that he's going to do things differently. So he's brought back that excitement, that kind of like child feeling inside of you of like, yeah, maybe somebody could show up. Who knows? Maybe someone from AEW. Maybe he's going to bring this person back. Maybe he's going to do this in the match. That's the great part of it. He's just instantly instantly brought that feeling back that has been missing for so long. So, all right. Well, yeah, no, I agree. Not decent, very good pay-per-view outside of the kind of lackluster main event and the strap match, which to me was kind of like it was okay. And then, of course, the whole debacle with Liv and Ronda, that was just kind of the mess of the night. But hey, overall, really good pay-per-view, and I think we're probably going to see a new United States champion tonight. We haven't seen Raw, but thank you so much for coming on. I know that last time you did Retro, it covered ECW's One Night Stand in 05 and 06, right?
Yeah, and I believe it actually dropped today. We didn't want to saturate our feed too much over the weekend. But yeah, I just thought it was kind of par for the course given Extreme Rules, and these were the two pay-per-views that were kind of like, I guess, the predecessor to Extreme Rules that we've come to know since 09, I believe. Yeah. And 2005 more specifically, when it was just completely ECW originals involved in the matches. But even 06, it was kind of leading into the infamous ECW standalone brand in WWE. But I think that it's cool to go back and look at these two pay-per-views from, what was it, the Bingo Hall, or I forget the exact name of what it was called. But I think these two pay-per-views is a good place to go watch to see where the Extreme Rules pay-per-view really came from.
Oh, the Hammerstein Ballroom.
There you go. You got it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, everybody, go check that out. We did drop it a little late, as Anthony said, because of the fact that we just had so much Extreme Rules content happening over the weekend that we wanted to just make sure that it didn't get lost in all of that. So now, guys, we are on the road to the beloved Crown Jewel event, guys. We can get excited. We're on the road to an event that most fans outside of Saudi Arabia don't care about. So, all right. Well, thanks so much, buddy. We'll be talking in a week, and you have a good night.
Yeah, man. You too. Looking forward to it.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.